Hey guys, so today we're starting off part 2 in our book that's called The Wanderings of Gilgamesh. We're going to pick up on page 62 with the section The Scorpion Men. It is not known how many double hours that is, how many days and nights Gilgamesh walked, but he crossed deserts and rocky places and came in time to the edge of the world. Before him loomed mighty mountains of Mashu, and he asked himself, can these be the mountains whose peaks reach into heavens and whose feet reach below the bottom of the earth? Is this the bank of the sun, the edge between day and night? Is this the mountain guarded by the terrible scorpion men, whose radiance blinds one and whose look is death? And as he stood questioning himself, he looked upward and saw these men standing above him in the snowy pass. And they sparkled and shone with bright radiance. He heard one of the creatures call out to his wife, "Who is that comes here? Is he God or man?" The wife called back, "2/3 of his flesh is the same of that as the gods, but the other third is a man's flesh." The scorpion men called down to him, cupping his hands, "How is it that you've come to me, crossing deserts and all sorts of difficult places?" Gilgamesh shouted back despairingly, "Oh, I have lost my friend Enkidu, sir. He who roved the fields and woods with me and was my constant companion. The earth reached up and seized him." "But why do you come here, to this place?" "I have come in search for Utnapishtim, my ancestor. He was once a mortal man, but he entered the assembly of the gods. He knows the secret of life and death. I must find out from him where my friend has gone, and whether I too must die." "O Gilgamesh," said the scorpion man, "no one has ever done this thing. Deep are the caverns that lie under the mountain, those very caverns that the sun travels on its way back to the eastern garden. At a distance of 9 double hours, Gilgamesh, the heart fails. Dense is the darkness. There is no light. At a distance of 10 double hours, the mind fails. And at first, the cold is unbearable, but in the middle part, the heat is unbearable. And although the whole distance is only that of 12 double hours, it is the same distance as between life and death. Turn back, Gilgamesh." But Gilgamesh replies, "Even if my heart fails, I will go on. In heat or cold, I will go on. Sighing or weeping, I will go on." The scorpion man was silent for a time, but when he spoke again, he said, "Go, Gilgamesh. I will open the gates for you. May your feet carry you in safety." As the gates of rock swung open, Gilgamesh entered into the earth and followed the way of the sun. Darkness closed around him. He could not see what lay ahead of him or what way he had come. The path was strewn with rocks and was stubbled often. At first, his body shook with cold, but as he descended more and more deeply into the earth, heat surrounded him, and he sweat and panted for breath. Sometimes he seemed to have been walking only a short way, but at other times he had felt he had been trudging his life out in the darkness. There was no sound there other than the unceasing scraping of his feet as he felt his way along. He strained his eyes to see, but it was as though they were closed. There was nothing, no trace of light. Could the caverns be endless? Had the scorpion man only trapped him? And was he now laughing at him high up in the mountain pass? At a distance of 9 double hours, Gilgamesh's heart failed him, and he was full of terror. And at a distance of 10 double hours, his mind failed him. He opened his mouth and shouted with all of his might, and the echoes of his own voice swarmed back all around him, terrible to hear. He began to run, but he stumbled and fell. So Gilgamesh lay in the darkness and could no longer cry out. He closed his eyes and could not get up or turn backward or go forward. And then he felt the wind from the north blow upon his face. He rose and stumbled on the black place. At a distance of 11 double hours, he perceived a trace of light that his eyes filled with tears of joy. At a distance of 12 double hours, he emerged from the cavern and stood in the eastern garden. All around him rose trees that sparkled with precious gems. Water glittered in the fountains and in pools. The air was full of sweet smells, and flowers and every kind nodded in the breeze. Here was such a light as he had never seen. Can this be the Eastern Garden called Dilmun, the most beautiful places? As Gilgamesh wondered, he looked through the trees into a huge face of Shamash, the sun. Shamash came to him, greeting him, and Gilgamesh called out to him, "O great Shamash, the darkness has gone from my eyes. Let me only gaze at you. Let me only look at you and be filled with your light." "What are you doing here, my son?" asked Shamash. "How have you come here? How are you dressed in the rough skins of animals? Why are your looks so wild, your face so burned, your body so thin and emaciated?" "I have lost my friend and brother, Enkidu. The earth came up and seized him, and since that time I have known no rest. Now, O great Shamash, I am on my way to find my ancestor, who was chosen a long time ago to live among the immortals. From him I shall learn the secret of life and death. I will preserve life." "Why do you run hither and thither, Gilgamesh? The life you seek you will never find." "Tell me," said Gilgamesh, "shall the one who has died rest his head forever underneath the earth? Shall he sleep for all the years and never see your light, O Shamash? And shall I too die? Why should you waste your young years this May, my son? Stay here beside me, live in the garden, where there is no grief and no memory." But Gilgamesh would not rest or remain in the garden. "In your travels across the sky, great Shamash, you must see all things. Tell me then how to find my ancestor in the place of the immortals." Shamash pointed at a path that led downward through the jeweled trees. "In that direction you will find Sabitu, the wine maiden. She will tell you the way to go. But remember, Gilgamesh, what you seek has never been." And so speaking, Shamash gathered his glorious robes around him and descended into the sky.